We are being gaslit so hard by the mainstream media, Mockingbird media, trying to make us believe that Kamala Harris is beating Donald Trump, that 4 weeks ago she was a drag on the party ticket. Now she's the best thing since sliced bread. I want to go through this and much more with my special guest, Lauren Southern. Lauren, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, just some background for my audience. Lauren is an author and a filmmaker exposing big stories. She's also a journalist at Tenet Media. Wanted to get your thoughts on this. President Trump announced earlier that he has hired Tulsi Gabbard, a former Democrat, a woman of color from a Democrat Hawaii state, to help him prepare to debate Kamala Harris. I think it's such a smart move. Get a woman's perspective, understand what he's up against compared to Joe Biden. What are your thoughts on Trump's latest move?
Yeah, absolutely. I think hiring Tulsi shows a lot of wisdom on his part. I understand the skepticism from a lot of the right-wing base when it comes to, oh, are we including or hiring people just because they're X, Y, Z, gender, race, this, that, and the other. And I think we need to be careful of what is, left-wing inserting diversity politics for the reason of diversity and not merit, and what is actually just a smart decision. And in this case, it is a wise decision from Trump. He is going to be debating a women. Women think differently than men, believe it or not. They respond differently to questions. They respond differently to emotional cues. You need to campaign to get women to support you differently than you campaign for men. So bringing her on for this debate, as much as Trump is very much I'm going to do it my own way, I don't care what anyone's saying, he's making some wise decisions too. I think she's going to be a huge asset coming from the Democrat background and coming from a woman's perspective. Man, what I would pay to be a fly on the wall of those prep debates, what I would pay to be a fly on the wall of Kamala's team trying to figure out what Trump is going to say in these debates. If it is Tulsi coming in, though, we may see a more mature Trump than we have before, as much as we enjoy the can't stump the Trump kind of stuff we saw in 2016 during the debates.
Yeah. I mean, when Tulsi Gabbard went up against Kamala Harris when they were both running for president, Tulsi, it was obvious, dominated her in debate. Harris had a terrible track record with her, sexual behavior, sex for favors, rising up in politics through these favors and relationships where Tulsi Gabbard, military background, real stand-up character. I think Trump is wise to lean into that and understand, how do I debate this woman? At the same time, Kamala Harris is not Hillary Clinton. And so I think being able to see into her mind through Tulsi Gabbard, like you said, I think it's just wisdom on his part.
Yeah, I think actually probably one of the worst things that Trump could do in this upcoming debate is bring up the sexual aspect of this, is bring up Kamala Harris' past, because whether or not there was this sex for favors involved, this is something that most women in America have gotten some sort of accusation of being called a slut, being called names, and they're going to take that personally. And once again, it doesn't matter whether people think that's ridiculous or not. It doesn't matter whether people are pulling their hair out like, women, why are you voting against your interests? Like, the border is in your interest. There's not having transgenders in women's sports or in women's prisons. That's something that's good for you. Like, Republicans are going to help you in a lot of ways. Women are emotional creatures, and they will respond badly if Trump starts bringing up things that they perceive as sexist or calling out her sexual past in the debate. So I wonder if Tulsi is going to have that discussion with Trump, and whether it's going to be successful or not. That'll be interesting, because Trump, obviously, he's so used to just kind of scrapping with the boys, calling everyone names. And quite frankly, Republicans are doing really well with men. They're not doing so well with women. This has been a political trend we have seen over the last few years. Women are increasingly becoming Democrat. And believe it or not, historically, women have voted majority right-wing parties for many, many elections, both in the UK, in America. A lot of the prohibitionists were women. There are a lot of hardcore female conservatives, but over the years they are turning more left wing. So it's not that we can never win women over as a demographic. Majority of white women voted Trump last election and the election before, but the Republicans are actively losing them. So Trump may have to be more tempered than he usually is, or more strategic when it comes to the name calling and what he chooses to actually attack Kamala on, because there are a lot of policy issues you can attack Kamala on. She's a radical. She wants to decriminalize border crossings, right? She's fully supportive of the Green New Deal. She shared actual pages to support the BLM rioters with funds. That's insane. This is perhaps one of the most radical Democrat candidates that they've put forward. Plenty to attack her on. I think if it goes too much into the weeds on the kind of frivolous, immature name calling, as much as, once again, everyone finds it very funny, it's not going to play well with women. It just won't. And that's the base that needs to be won over the most for Republicans right now. It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree. Calling her Kamala Harris, gets a nice soundbite. But I think at the end of the day, people want to know, Trump, how are you going to make life more affordable? How are you going to make life safer? And like you say, if he can tap into that, women, don't vote against what's in your best interest. Your safety, protection, the ability to, find a mate, have the American dream, whatever it is that you want. We want to provide that for you. I think that's a good way to go. I read this morning, this is disturbing to me because mathematically it just doesn't make a lot of sense. But up in Pennsylvania, ever since Joe Biden magically won the state of Pennsylvania in the middle of the night, Democrats have lost 320,000 Democrat registered voters. As of right now, data shows Republicans have 4 times as many new registered voters as Democrats, yet the mainstream media tells us that Kamala Harris and Trump are somehow tied for this crucial swing state. What are your thoughts on this conflicting data?
Well, first of all, we know if we have learned anything from past elections in the States, it's that we cannot trust the data. We cannot trust the polling. I mean, Hillary Clinton was supposed to win in a landslide in 2016, right? Half the time, I think these places are just making up or picking the data. We don't know how it's actually being collected, which areas they're going to. And there is definitely a level of astroturfing going on where, I mean, you've even seen it just with the Kamala memes that have come out. The media are all talking about it's Brat Summer, it's this. This is astroturfing. They're trying to make it seem more popular than it actually is. So it starts hopefully to ignite these things organically. But we're not going to know what's actually going on until Election Day. We won't. The polling is not reliable. But one thing I would warn people that are perhaps overconfident about a Republican win coming up, yes, reality should indicate Republicans should win. Don't get me wrong, it should. The inflation numbers, the mass immigration, just the progressive politics and schooling, the way we are living our day-to-day lives should be telling people vote Republican. Here in Canada, vote conservative, right? But we cannot have this position where we acknowledge that the media, institutions, education, algorithms, big tech are all captured by the left and no one is being affected by that. Those are inconsistent views, right? People's algorithms are being controlled. What they are seeing, the information they are receiving. You have a whole new voting block of Zoomers and millennials, people that may have not voted in previous elections, that have gone through extraordinarily liberal, even radical, progressive education systems. You have a whole media apparatus that is pushing for one result in that election, and that is a Kamala Harris win. So to pretend that this isn't affecting the population, I think would be naive. And I think it would be a smarter decision for Republicans to win or to approach this election, to campaign as though Kamala is winning. Don't underestimate them, because there is an entire apparatus that they have captured that is gaslighting the population into believing reality is not what it is.
Yeah. Well, I just saw something that the CIA did. They brought people in and they would have like 18 or 19 people lined up, and they would show them a shape, right? And then everybody would agree, oh, that's a circle. Everyone would agree, oh, that's a stop sign or a octagon, right? And then they showed a square, and they said, oh, that's a triangle, a triangle, a triangle, a triangle. And they were all fake people, right? By the time they got to the last one, the real one, the test subject, the person said triangle. Yes, it was a triangle, right? But it was a square. But enough was said from other people that they were like, wait a minute. And then they went with what was popular or what other people were saying. And I had someone on the other day, they said, what we have to be careful of is that the fake momentum doesn't become the real momentum.
Yeah.
And they're doing this right now, right? With the fake AI generated photos and videos, with the Kamala Harris's team buying ads that look like positive news headlines from reputable news sources, but then down below it says sponsored ad. So there's a lot of manipulation going on, and the mainstream media seems to back it. Like you say, they only have one preferred outcome, and it's not Donald Trump.
It's really scary getting into the AI stuff because there's so many layers to that as well. One of the AI images that came out that was supposedly put out by the Kamala campaign was actually generated by a left-wing satire account, and it was shared. I saw Blair White sharing it. I saw a lot of friends of mine, big accounts, saying the Kamala team put it out. And then it ends up getting community noted saying, actually, this left-wing satire account put it out. This is fake. And then that destroys the reputation of a lot of commentators that are pro-Trump. And so we're going to see a lot of layers to this AI. We are going to see, levels on levels. Did the campaigns put it out? Did they not? Is it random individuals astroturfing? Is it them trying to catch right-wingers in a trap to fall for and share fake news so that they lose credibility? Like, I be careful about anything you believe this election, whether it be from left or right-wing sources, because all of us are being astroturfed and gaslit in ways that we can't even comprehend. One thing I've noticed that has been fascinating about the Kamala approach, I will say, is they're paying a lot of Zoomer TikTok influencers and YouTube influencers. This kind of happened about the last 5 to 10 years. Companies realized that people want to feel like they're being spoken to by real individuals in their basement just with a phone camera. They don't want to feel like they're being sold a product by a carefully managed team that have selected the exact line from a teleprompter to read out. They want to feel like it's natural. So a lot of the TikTok influencers people are seeing right now that are talking about their opinion or what they're experiencing day to day. Oh, if inflation isn't affecting me, it is affecting me. I've dealt with discrimination as a woman, whatever it might be. These people, not AI, but also potentially paid and influenced. And we know that they're getting paid by Democratic PACs. You've had Farrah Khalidi, an OnlyFans influencer, come out and talk about how the Biden administration offered her money. You have Harry Sisson, who's making TikTok dances, pretending, what is he, 19, 20, acting like he's so excited about Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. No 20-year-old is that excited naturally about Kamala but if a bunch of kids, a bunch of Zoomers who can now vote, think that their friends are excited, well, they might want to get that I voted sticker to post on their Instagram as well, because it's all about socially peacocking today. Yeah. And got to be careful with that. This is going to be the most socially, psychologically, tech manipulated election in human history. And this is why I'm being so careful about making any predictions, because I may know what my friends are saying. I may know what I'm seeing on my algorithm, but I don't know what everyone else is seeing for 3 hours a night while they're doom scrolling before bed. I don't. And it may be a very different reality than the one I'm living in.
Yeah. No, we assume that whatever our reality is, everybody else's reality. But for example, I had a friend who was like, hey, why do you keep running, like YouTube kept running ads to him about like repairing cars or something like that. And my wife just happened to mention to me that almost all the ads are about like skincare and stuff. And so like these algorithms are grabbing whatever they think is going to get a sale or keep you on the platform longest. It's all just massive manipulation on the human mind. Like imagine these trillion-dollar computers that are basically focused right on your brain. It's the future is going to be really interesting for good and for bad. What are your thoughts on I mean, this seems like a simple question with a simple answer, but why do you think Kamala Harris is working so hard to avoid the press, doing any kind of sit down interview and debating Donald Trump? Is the strategy to keep her hidden like they did Joe Biden in 2020?
I don't think it benefits her. I think Trump is a stronger debater. I mean, we saw him do a 2-hour space with maybe even longer than that, maybe three space with Elon Musk just riffing. I don't think Kamala has spoken unscripted for 2 minutes since announcing that she is the candidate for the Democrats. He is much more comfortable. And he's also much safer in speaking because he doesn't have a base that are going to cancel him for saying the wrong thing. They're like, oh, it's Trump, you know? He's tested the waters with every potential offensive comment he could make. And his base are not canceling him. So it does not benefit Kamala at all. She's not going to gain voters by speaking for 2 hours unscripted. She's not going to gain voters by, I think she's terrified of debating Trump as well. She's probably got a lot of prep to do in that department. But not only that, why would she? Once again, the whole media apparatus is supporting her. They've got enough AI TikToks just saying based Kamala, this, that. She doesn't have to do anything. They can perfectly curate every single bit of her image without her saying a word and ensure that there's not a single gaffe that comes out. What an incredible tool to use. And this is something that I think is fascinating because Musk clearly predicted that this was going to be I mean, he's been talking about AI taking over the world for ages. So he clearly predicted that this was going to be the future of elections. Who owns big tech? Who owns the algorithms? And this is why he went out and bought Twitter and made it into X as kind of a last stand, a last territory of free thought and free opinion with community notes that was going to correct things that were AI, that was going to correct things that were misinformation. And quite frankly, I think this election would have been very clearly in the Democrats' pockets, despite the fact that reality doesn't support them, if Musk hadn't bought X. Truly. Most people are living on their phones. Most young people, young generations, certainly, they're living on their phones. They're not living in reality. And I always tell people, if you want to know what's going on in the world, shut off your computer. Don't listen to a thing anyone says, even me. Don't listen to what I say. What I say, I think, reflects reality outside. So, I mean, you can listen to me in that capacity, but go out and confirm it. The only thing you can believe is what you see with your eyes around you. But most people are not living like that anymore. In fact, the world has gotten so dark when it comes to people's friends falling into addiction, people's kids transitioning and spiraling. People are on so many SSRIs just to get out of bed in the morning. The inflation, you know, I have people I know that are having to live in trailers because they can't afford rent in this country anymore because of the mass immigration issues, just lack of. It has gotten so difficult to live because of bad policies that people no longer want to live in reality. They prefer the phone world. They prefer the curated reality. And our politicians know that. And that's where their battleground is. That's where Kamala's battleground is. And that's where people need to be the most suspicious of anything they see.
Yeah, I agree. You brought up Elon Musk. What was your takeaway from the Donald Trump, Elon Musk conversation that now has well over 1 billion interactions online?
It was a rare glimpse into something we haven't seen from politicians in a while. Just once again, two regular people talking. Not to say that Musk and Trump are regular people, but they were doing something that was more regular than a lot of politicians, like a fireside chat in a world where every single celebrity and every single politician is mortified of being canceled, mortified of saying anything that hasn't been perfectly scripted by PR reputation consultants. It was a breath of fresh air. And, you know, was it fascinating the entire way through? I don't think anyone could say that. At some points, it kind of just listened to like your boomer grandparents talking at the table about politics. And it's like, okay, let's move on. But it was raw. It was real. I think that's what a lot of people, even if they don't know it, even if they are falling for the gaslighting, I don't think they're happy about it deep down. I think a lot of people just want real humans again. They want that rawness. They want a politician that's going to say it like it is to the population and be willing to talk unscripted. Because if a politician is scripted, then who's actually talking, right? Are you actually even voting for a person, or are you voting for a team of consultants and PR strategists and donors. Well, quite frankly, that is what you're voting for if you're voting Democrat. Look at Biden. He wasn't even a real politician. He was barely sentient. And it seems like they're just going to do that with Kamala. Now you've got someone who doesn't speak either for themselves, doesn't think for themselves, but now fits the woman and person of color dynamic. So they've got to do this switcheroo and have an extra benefit to their puppet. Very refreshing, and something that I hope we see more in the future, but is unlikely. I think Trump may be one of the last politicians that behaves in this manner altogether.
Yeah, I think not being a politician is his advantage. Twice in this interview, Lauren, you said, the popular phrase, "I wish I could be a fly on the wall of ... right? I think that's what people liked about the Trump Elon Musk discussion is, I remember reading on the Daily Mail, Elon Musk goes to Mar-a-Lago for private dinner with Trump. And I remember thinking, I wish I could be a fly on the wall and listen to these two successful billionaire business owners discuss the US economy and how to make the world better, how to make America better. And I think we all got to have a glimpse of that. I think that's why it got over 1 billion online interactions. The thing that stood out to me the most was Elon Musk asking Trump for the government to have more accountability on money. And if they were better with money, we wouldn't have to be taxed at the rate that we are. If they were better with money, they wouldn't have the inflation problem. And so, these kitchen table issues would not be an issue, and everybody could enjoy the American dream or the Canadian dream of, ownership, building assets, having enough money to go on a vacation, raise a family, not be stressed about an auto mechanic bill or something like that. So when Elon Musk was trying to articulate this need for accountability with taxpayer money and how not just blowing through all of that money, but improving the country would improve everybody's life, hundreds of millions of lives. To me, that was the one thing that was like, wow, that really would be a game changer. I just don't trust that Washington, D.C. cares about that like the American people do.
Yeah. And you know what? It's become such a big issue that I don't think people can even conceptualize it. I'm sure you've heard the quote from Stalin, "One death is a tragedy, a million is a statistic." The amount of spending, the amount of institutions it's getting funneled into, the amount of waste going on is so big that, once again, it's incomprehensible for the average person. All they know is they can barely afford groceries right now. All the average millennial knows is, I may never be able to have a family because I can't even afford a home. I can barely afford rent. And how do we tackle this? It really is. There are conversations going on behind those closed doors with people like Musk, with people like Trump, that are beyond what the average person has access to. We don't have the information to understand what they're discussing or what is even possible to fix this problem right now. But all I do know is a lot of the conversations that are being made the forefront of this election are starting to really piss me off. I saw Dave Smith on a Piers Morgan panel the other day where he was debating Harry Sisson and some other TikTok influencers, and they were discussing Brat Summer and feminism and this and that. And he's like, I don't know what Brat Summer is, and I don't care. I care that I'm in my 40s and I've got a family and I've got a mortgage to pay. Like, what the hell are you guys on about? Why are we discussing, this is where it's at. Like, I don't even care if Trump is calling Kamala names. I don't care if it's sexism going on or what other ism they want to talk about. I don't care about these superficial issues. There is this country, the West in general, is going to be run into the ground if we don't start having real conversations. But anytime you bring up a real conversation, instantly there's a name calling that happens. And here in Canada, for example, the mass immigration has gotten to such a horrendous degree. Like, the average high schooler can't get a summer job anymore because there's a 40-year-old person from India here on a visa that's probably illegal and expired already. They're living 15 people to a house. Our rent has gone up double. And if you even mention it, you will be called a racist in a minute. You will just, bam, your career over, done for, possibly, fired from your job. they will not let us have these serious conversations. And this is why, once again, you can find them offensive. You can find them narcissistic. Hell, Trump probably is a narcissist. I don't care. I'm not an armchair psychologist. I don't care. I care that he's actually going to fix real problems, or at least be willing to talk about them instead of all of this window dressing conversation about change and progressivism and hand holding and kumbaya. Like, I've had enough of it. I have had enough of it. I have a family I care about. My friends have families they care about, whether they're in America or Canada. Quite frankly, being in Canada, my economy is tied to yours to the bitter end. So, my goodness, I hope you guys vote in Trump.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that there is a level of hope that people are holding on to, that if Kamala wins, I think we might see a lot of people slide into unhealthy places. I don't want to embarrass you. I don't know the exact right way to say this, but my understanding is that you have been banned from going to England.
Yes.
Help me understand that. Help me understand what happened there.
This was back in 2017, 2018-ish. There was an article that came out in Vice magazine that said Jesus Christ was a transgender man or woman. Jesus Christ was transgender, right? Yes.
Okay, that's
and I remember thinking to myself, they would never write this article, even if they thought it was true, even if somehow they had factual evidence that, the Prophet Muhammad were transgender, they would never write this article about any other faith, right? And I decided to put it to the test, and I was going to do a pride parade stand outside a church and then a pride parade stand outside a Muslim neighborhood in the UK to kind of see, let's put this to the test. Can we actually push these progressive ideas on every population? It's always been an interesting amalgamation of perspectives that progressives have, in which they massively support Islam and massively support, the LGBT stuff. We've seen this with Queers for Palestine, whatever. But there wasn't as many people calling it out or having that conversation back in 2016, 2017. So I think I got myself in a little hotter water when I decided to set up a pride parade stand in Luton, which is a highly Muslim area in the UK. I immediately had crowds surrounding me, spitting on us, screaming at us, and the police showed up and demanded that I take down my stand, and that it was causing a breach of the peace. It was offending people. It was going to cause a riot. So what do you know? You can't have a pride parade in a Muslim neighborhood. But for some reason, all the people who love the Stonewall riots aren't freaking out about that right now, and the amount of people coming to their country with those beliefs. But anyways, I listened to the cops, take down the stand, and go on my merry way. I had left the UK briefly and was traveling to return. And on my way in, I instantly got rejected entry and was pulled in and told I was being arrested under Schedule 7 of the Terrorism Act. I was like 21-year-old girl at this point getting arrested as a terrorist. I had no idea at the time what I was being arrested for, but they full-blown pulled me into a room, did the questioning for hours and hours on end. Do you want to run Muslims over with a bus? All this kind of stuff. I'm like, what are you guys talking about, right? And eventually, after 10 hours of being held by the British immigration and police, they told me that I had been banned from the country for racism, that racism being holding a pride parade stand in Luton. I can't quite make the connection there myself, but that's why I was banned from the country. And no one really tells you what happens when you get banned from a country. Like, do they put you on a plane, whatever? They literally just walked me to the border wall, because I was on the French side, Calais area, taking the channel, opened the door to the border, put me on the other side and said, au revoir. And I was in the middle of nowhere with just a little bag and had to walk to find a McDonald's that was open and charge my phone and find somewhere to go. But just an absurd situation. But yeah, I'm still banned to this day.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I can't imagine that happening at age 21, let alone I'm in my 40s now. Now that must have been quite a life experience.
Yeah, but I don't regret it at all, because I look now at what the UK is going through. You're seeing people sent to jail, to prison for their speech. For say, one guy just got 18 months in jail, retired man who was taking care of his ill wife. 18 18 months for yelling, "Who the F is Allah?" That's it. That's all he yelled. And I don't care if people find that offensive, even if it was about Christians. You shouldn't be going to jail for that kind of stuff. These same judges, there's a wonderful writer and owner of the magazine Redux, Anna. She made a thread on X just going through all of the judges that are currently putting UK rioters in jail over things like speech or little misdemeanors or whatever, comparing how much time the judges gave to rioters versus how much time they gave to convicted pedophiles. And she's got dozens of these cases where people who had thousands of hours of child porn, had actually convicted assault charges on children, getting community service, getting released on bail, while these people who are getting arrested for speech or even just standing on the sidelines of these UK riots are getting years of their lives taken from them in prison and jail sentences. It's sick. When they talk about a two-tier justice system, damn, it's pretty obvious. You can't deny that when you look at that sort of evidence.
Yeah. I mentioned this on a different show, but I read an article where an illegal immigrant, physically violates a woman, and then she complained about it online, and she went to jail, and he did not. And so the abuser gets away with it, and the complainer ends up being the one in jail. As you were talking, I can't help but think, like, you have these two major religions rising, right? And not really religions, but you have Islam rising and moving out of the Middle East into the rest of the world. And you have LGBTQ2SA plus religion, pride flag rising. What happens when these two clash? You give it enough time, I can predict which one is going to win out. And there won't be kindness and pride. It will be snuffed out. So, and interesting how, like when I see like lesbians for Palestine or gays for Palestine, it's like, all right, you can talk about it because you live under the blanket of freedom in the United States, but go try to do that protesting in Gaza, and the very people you're concerned about will bash your head in. So anyway, an interesting thing. Hey, I want to thank you for coming on. This has been a fun conversation. I didn't realize, just how you were banned from going over to England. Such a crazy story. I won't ask you to predict, your thoughts on the Kamala Trump outcome, because, man, every day is a toss-up. Every day is just a mass psychosis of trying to control our minds. I would just urge everybody, fact check things, use common sense, think with your wallet, not with your emotions. Don't vote for someone just because they're a woman or just because they were a former president. Like, dig in and make a great decision. Any final comments you want to make?
I mean, I think you've said it all. I really appreciate you having me on. You can find me at Lauren_Southern on X, or just look up my name, Lauren Southern, as in the direction, not Western, to find my YouTube channel or Tenant Media. Thank you so much for having me, Stephen.
Absolutely. I'm going to put direct links so that people can find you right away. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope you have a great rest of your week.